So interchange is both giving and taking.
एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं नानुवर्तयति हयः अघायुरिन्द्रियारामो मोघं पार्थ स जीवति.
Okay, I think I've moved ahead, so let me. This knowledge of the entire unity, Brahma Vidya, of the self-realized soul is that it is the same one divine that manifests as the doer, the deed and the object of all work, as well as the knower, the knowledge and the object of all knowledge. To know this and to live and work in this consciousness of oneness is the consummation of human existence. In this context, the role of matter and work is explained by Sri Aurobindo as follows. The spirit has made itself matter in order to place itself there as an instrument for the well-being and joy, Yoga-Kshema, of created beings for a self-offering of universal physical utility and service. So finally it comes to material exchange. The well-being, Yoga-Kshema of all created beings manifests from a recognition of the reality of interbeing, where all action is seen as an interchange, manifesting in the form of giving and taking. This is inbuilt into creation, and an evolution of consciousness demands that we engage consciously with this understanding. We see this in the healthy body of a multicellular organism. Although each cell has its own individuality, its functioning is intended to serve the well-being of the whole body. In a similar way, the entire universe may be conceived as an organic whole in which every individual part, while expressing its individuality and interacting with other parts, is meant to serve the one divine source from which everything has emerged. And you'll also see a similarity, a kind of fractal similarity between what is happening in the microcosm and what's happening in the macrocosm. You'll find at the cellular level, you have a lot of empty spaces, and you have this apparently solid entities are very small in size. Similarly, in outer space, it's the same story. So, to see that fractal geometry in space, it shows that everything is made in the same way at all levels. All action is thus visualized as a sacred offering of Prakriti to Purusha. While such offering is done unconsciously in most sentient beings, it is meant to be done consciously in the evolving being as a conscious sacrifice, yajna. This implies an increasingly greater focus on giving and a lesser focus on taking. Sri Aurobindo points out, according to the grade of consciousness and being which the soul has reached in nature, will be the divinity it worships, the delight which it seeks, and the hope for which it sacrifices. So that answers your question. So different people are at different grades of consciousness. Some are matlabi to the extreme, and some are open-hearted and generous to the extreme. On one hand, you calculate to the last percentage point. The other hand, you don't really, you don't bother about these things because, and we do this in accounting, isn't it? You know that sometimes it's difficult to keep track of accounts. Then you kind of take the hundi approach. You know hundi, like it's one big container in which you don't know where things are coming in and you don't know where it's going out. That's how Brahman operates. So don't be too much into nitty gritty and nitpicking on small things. You know that old saying, what is that principle where you penny wise, pound foolish. So big picture understanding. At the same time not being callous. So a fine balance is needed, to use your judgment and do this. But a person who believes all is well really operates like that. Doesn't operate on nitpicking and saying. Well, the extreme is you always say, what did he do for me? Okay, then maybe I should do. That reciprocal thing is fine. But you do it expecting something in return. Here you don't do that because that person is another extension of you. So it's more a self-giving without calculation. At the lower end of the spectrum of human evolution, we have individuals in society who do not seem to care to give to others, to society, to the environment, and to focus entirely on taking and consuming and hoarding. This results in a failure to help turn the wheel of life. That's what this verse is all about. He who fails to help turn the wheel of life, na anuvartayati iha yaha chakram, thus set in motion through mutual sacrifices, evam pravartitam, addicted to a life of sin and sense pleasures, aghayuhu indriya aramah, Arjuna, he lives in vain, wasting his life. Mogham partha saha jivati. So typically people who have amassed wealth which doesn't belong to them, which is usurped from public money. Finally, on your deathbed, only you'll come to know, why did you do all that? You can't carry anything, not even one coin of it along with you in your other journey. So to let go of all that and to only take what is really due to you is dharma. And that's why it's so important to pursue your desires of artha and kama, but only within the confines of dharma. Yep.
If we are part of the same Brahman, why does it dawn only on a few Brahmans that you should realize, you should reach the higher conscience, and why not the others? Why are the others going towards prayers?
It's a game. Actually, this is one of those big questions nobody's been able to answer. And that's why they say it's Leela. It's a game. Right? In this class, we are playing a game. The game is this, that you have to become self-realized. Potentially, it's very easy because that divinity is hidden within you. It's a what's it called? Treasure hunt. But some of us are pretty dumb. Not some. Most of us are. So we don't get it. And so, the jackpot is kept here, but we go and bang our heads there and we suffer a lot. You understand? We walk all over the place. Still, slowly the light is revealed and then we wake up. Now, I'll put back a question to you. Some homework has to be done by your child, right? So you know what needs to be done. You are Brahman. You know that a project report has to be made on how a banyan tree grows from a seed. So why don't you do it and make life easy for that child?
How will she learn?
Huh?
How will she learn?
How many parents ask this? So the teacher, a good parent does not do the homework for the child. The child will suffer, sometimes fail, but that's the only way to grow up. You understand? So it's a game. You're saying, who set the laws of the game? I don't know, but that's the way it is. But there's a fun in the game, right? Especially when you know that you can't lose. Because you're the one divine who's manifested and playing all the way. So it's a big, deep question for which answers are very difficult to give. Okay. But good question. Reflect on it. If you discover the answer, come and tell us. So he who fails to help turn the wheel of life, thus set in motion through mutual sacrifices, addicted to a life of sin and sense pleasures, Arjuna, he lives in vain, wasting his life. Tell me, a vast percentage of our population is living like this, isn't it? Why are they living like that? If you go and tell them that, look, this is the reality, will they listen to you? Will they listen to you? Don't even try. Okay. Yep.
I didn't understand the concept of sin.
Even I didn't understand. Sin is ignorance. Ignorance. You understand? From ignorance we do stupid things. We don't see the connectedness. Not seeing connectedness when connectedness exists, would you think that is sin? It is. Just because you don't know that, fire burns and you put your hand in the fire and it gets burnt, doesn't absolve you of what's happened, right? Ignorance is not bliss. So avidya is actually a kind of sin. When you are steeped in avidya, you will suffer a lot. So you want to hoard everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? What doesn't belong to you, you hoard. You steal. So you'll pay the price for it. So in a manner of speaking, it is sin. So we are using sin in the common parlance, because the moment you hear the word sin, you feel uncomfortable, you feel scared. A jnani won't feel scared. He won't even understand what sin is. Or maybe you're a jnani. Okay, so put it on hold. Sin in the Indian context, in the traditional context, is avidya, is ignorance, deep-rooted ignorance. Okay. In verse 3.12, the divine teacher describes the person who enjoys the gifts of nature but does not offer anything in return as a thief. Thief. The law of interchange demands that all individual beings operate on some principle of mutual dependence whereby all partake of the mutual benefit and prosperity. When sacrifice is not voluntarily done, you should underline this. When sacrifice is not voluntarily done, nature has a way of extracting it forcefully from the ego-centered individual, thereby enforcing the principle of interchange. At the other end of the spectrum of human evolution, we have self-realized individuals who have attained perfection through conscious self-offering. Do you see? You've got the whole range. At the lower end of the spectrum, you have people who don't learn easily, who go through a lot of suffering, and then finally they may wake up and come up. But at this end of the spectrum, there is no suffering at all. It's a conscious self-giving. Here it's a reluctant giving, if at all. You don't want to give. You understand what I'm saying? So that can be viewed as sin. Chakram. Indriyarama. Indriyarama is khushi life. You know how it is. You are supposed to give the meditation record after practicing meditation. You don't practice meditation, then you think meditation record, you must get your marks. So, unfortunately, you can't even copy. So, that is that leisurely life where, full of tamas, you don't want to do. You take attending class itself. Today we're going to look at the Gunas. Coming on time. You yourself came late today, isn't it? Is it a sin? Is it a sin? Well, it is. You're showing disrespect to the teacher. Yes or no? Oh, who cares, yeah? Now you understand. So, you define what sin is by placing your own standards. Said, no, I must come on time. If I have an appointment with somebody, it's my job to be there on time. Yes or no? So that's a cultural thing. Now you do the predominant culture in this campus is Indriya Arama. Relax. You understand? Now you understand the meaning of this word? Well, the Gita clearly says, addicted to this life of sin and sense pleasures, none of those things we give so much importance to really matter at all. I'm not joking. I got a lot of S grades when I was a student here. Nobody has ever looked at my grade card. Yeah? What a shame. I myself have not looked at it. I don't even know where it is today. Doesn't matter. We are giving too much importance to stupid things. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that stupidity, that's not seeing the big picture, that's not knowing all is well. That is not based on doing your best. That is not based on yoga karmasu kaushalam. That is not based on doing things as a conscious sacrifice. That is not based on not expecting anything in return. Do you understand? So you see what all ranges are possible. At the lowest level, everything you could say is sin. He says he lives in vain, wasting his life. It's a very strong statement. So are we wasting our lives? Perhaps we are. So it's a good deep question for you to reflect over. Okay, next verse.
कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादयः लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि सम्पश्यन् कर्तुमर्हसि.
Janaka, you heard of Janaka? King Janaka? Who's Janaka? That's how we remember the legend. Sita's father, but he was more famous as he was a Rajarishi. He was an enlightened sage king. There are lots of stories about him. Sometime later we can narrate those stories. But Janaka is always hailed as the classic Karmayogi, who was a Jnani and a Bhakta. Total enlightened person. So historically, Janaka and others have attained Asthita Janaka Adaya. Perfection through work alone. Karmana eva he samsiddhim. Thus for maintaining world order, Loka Sangraham eva api sampashyan. You are obliged to offer your work. Kartum arhasi. To keep the wheel of life turning. Because this whole creation has a divine purpose. The instruments for that is us. Do it. Knowing your role, keep the wheel turning. Do it in terms of offering your bit to maintain world order. So the key word here, samsiddhim, is perfection, and loka sangraham, for the well-being, for the maintenance of the world order, for the evolution. Yes or no? So do your bit. If you have to come here at 2 o'clock, come here at 2 o'clock. Or you don't do your bit, because you think somebody else will be there. Doesn't matter. Nobody will catch me. Well, nobody will catch you, but then you are not really doing your job. You are not doing it to perfection. This Shubham order, you know. What is this order? So this order has to be maintained or not? What do you do to maintain your body? Eat less. Well, you do exercise, you drink, you fill it with water, and you let the water come out also. You understand? You keep yourself fit. Why do you keep yourself fit? To live long. Okay, that's your objective, is it? Well, to live a healthy, meaningful, purposeful life. Yes or no? So just like you do it for your little body, do it for the whole universe. You have a role. You are one spoke in the chakram.
It's not defined, right? So for me to be defined.
It's not. That's where you have to figure out your swabhava and swadharmam. Now don't go back to that. So if you figure out your swabhava and it's your consequent swadharma, you know exactly what your role is, and that's all you have to do. Do your little bit. Is it clear? Do it to perfection. So the message is very simple. Don't do paradharma. You understand? Don't maintain his body. Maintain your body. Right. Here again we see the Gita's emphasis on performing work not only as a means to attain ultimate perfection, samsiddhi, but also after transcending the ego. Why? simply to keep turning the wheel of life for the maintenance of the world order and evolution. Loka Sangraham. The legendary king Janaka, who was a Rajrishi, a king who was also a sage, is cited here as a perfect example of the accomplished Karmayogin who is also a Jnani Bhakta. The next topic is surrender, Samarpanam. As one consciously practices the Gita's teaching of Yajna, one gradually discovers the power in it. Whenever we see an opportunity to sacrifice our interests for the benefit of others, we will feel an inner resistance and reluctance to do so because of the habitual entrapment of our lower nature. This requires us to overcome the resistance by letting go. We then see how viciously we cling to our ignorance, our grievances, our hostilities, our demands for ego-centered satisfactions. That perhaps is sin. Overcoming such inner resistance may be difficult and painful at first, but is bound to yield a higher satisfaction. It is not easy, for example, to forgive those who we believe have harmed us or those close to us, and it is tempting to continue nursing our grievances against them. Yet, when we are truly able to forgive, it is like a burden living from our hearts and minds, liberating us. So there's a beautiful verse in the Gita. I think that one verse, I'm going ahead, 12th chapter, is worth remembering. It goes like this. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Not having any ill will towards any sentient being. Adveshta. Dvesham, you know. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. And in place of it, maitra. Maitra is friendship. Karuna, compassion, compassion, etc. Evacha. Nirmamo nirahankaraha. Free from the feeling of mine and I. Sama dukkha sukha. Sama dukkha sukha is Sthita-prajna's sign. Equal to whatever be the outcome, pleasure or pain. And one last word is there, kshami. Being able to forgive and not nurse grievances. That's the mark of a person who is deserving of divine grace. Okay, so there are some verses like that. You should kind of make it as a guideline to practice daily. So every night when you go to bed, clean yourself up, empty yourself of all grievances, become large-hearted. Don't nurture them, otherwise they can lead you to sin. Okay. Yet when we are truly able to forgive, it is like a burden lifting from our hearts and minds, liberating us. Similarly, when we consciously step out to give our care, attention and assistance to others, when we are otherwise disinclined, it can do wonders to expand our hearts and minds and to invoke a feeling of joy. We then see how constricted our ordinary lives tend to be, unconnected to and separated from the world around us. So these are viscerally felt feelings. On the one hand, you feel constricted, you feel narrow, you feel kind of locked up, you feel suffocated, you feel narrow. The other one, you feel open, you feel large-hearted, you feel expansive, you feel generous, you feel loving, mindlessly mindlessly in the sense that it's not restricted to any self. Open-hearted, you feel light. So these are two extreme possibilities. Most of us prefer this to that because we've not experienced the joy of that, the boundlessness of that. Sacrifice can be made much easier by the feeling of dedication to the divine, which is essentially an expression of devotion and love, bhakti. We need to invoke divine support to help transform all the parts of our being, physical, vital and mental. This calls for not only an honest admission of our own limitations and shortcomings, but also a complete surrender, samarpanam, to the divine. This is an approach of humility that wise beings adopt, knowing only too well the limitations of vital, physical and mental parts of being. So, we'll go back to this prayer that we played earlier.
कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियेण वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतिस्वभावात् करोमि यज्ञत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि.
Whatever I do with body, speech, mind or senses, kayena, that's body, vacha, speech, manasa, mind, indriyairva, using intellect guided by my innermost being, buddhyatmana. So either I do it this way, which is fantastic, or but more often than not I do it in the other way. What's the other way? Conditioned by my lower nature. Va prakrite swabhavat. Whatever I do, whether I do it consciously as an offering or unconsciously in a stupid way, let me do all that as an offering. I do all that as an offering. Karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai, surrendering to the one supreme divine. Narayanayeti samarpayami. Very old traditional prayer. I suggest you listen to this and look, it's an honest admission that we really don't know and we need help, we need grace. So you render yourself more deserving to that if you approach this with a sense of surrender and humility. The truth is that nothing really belongs to us so as to give of our own. Everything belongs to the divine, whose stock is infinite. All we need is to stay divinely yoked, which brings into our being a sense of abundance. It does not really have much to do with our actual bank balance. It has more to do with an attitude in life where one is no longer worried by deficiency. Then one gets truly large-hearted with others, giving generously without much hesitation, wherever and whenever possible. On the contrary, even if we happen to be millionaires, remaining miserly focused only on gaining and hoarding, we stay in fact poor because we continue to be obsessed by deficiency needs. True abundance is of spirit, of love, reflecting oneness with others and the environment. This is facilitated by samarpanam, where we realize our roles as no more than caretakers and instruments of the divine to carry out the divine will for the divine mission of evolution and lokasangraham. Such surrender ideally needs to be integral with our entire being, sarva bhavena. So the last verse.
यो मामेवम सम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद् भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत.
He who without any delusion, yaha evam asammudha, knows me as the Purushottama, mam janati Purushottamam, knowing all, thus worships me, saha sarvavit bhajati mam, with his entire being, Arjuna, sarva bhavena bharata. So, the integral approach is one where the different parts of your being are not pulling you in different directions. Every cell in your body, every attitude that you have is driven with one noble objective. And actually that's a very high state. It's not easy. That's called complete unification. There are no discordant notes. It's just one single movement which is called unification. Okay? The Gita's yoga presented so far involves giving up attachment to the fruits of action so as to focus mindfully on the work at hand, performing it with a skilled perfection that remains equipoised to success or failure. This can be supported, strengthened and advanced by consecrating the work as yajna. However, there is still the notion of doership, the belief that one is doing the actions that one is consecrating. That is the next thing to be eliminated. So we'll do that after going through a quick review of meditation. So Purushottamam we'll explore later. It's Uttama Purusha. It's the highest divine. Sarva Bhavena. Review questions. Discuss the Gita's concept of yajna. What happens if work is not offered as a sacrifice? Distinguish between the unconscious and conscious forms of yajna. How does yajna contribute to yoga karmasu kaushalam? How does it provide a solution to overcoming the habit of focusing on the fruit of action? There are many forms of worshipful offerings to the divine practice worldwide. There are also atheists serving humanity. What is the Gita's take on these different approaches? What are the different forms of yajna described in the Gita? Which among these is considered to be the highest and why so? Discuss how developments in science and technology have altered man's attitude towards nature. How has the concept of yajna changed from primitive to modern times? Discuss the deeper significance of yajna in terms of interbeing and Brahman and various grades of consciousness in sentient beings. What is meant by Loka Sangraham? What does the Gita say of those who fail to turn the wheel of life? How are they dealt with? So it's a big chapter. Right, now we get into meditation. I want you to watch a small video which suggests how simple and beautiful breath meditation is. So it's a Tibetan Buddhist monk who is going to teach.